There is a crop that defies nearly every expectation of modern agriculture. It delivers almost twice the harvest of potatoes. It shrugs off the killing frosts that wipe out wheat, and once you place it in the soil, you never need to purchase seed again. It regrows on its own, season after season, as if the earth itself insists on keeping it alive. For thousands of years, this was humanity's quiet shield against starvation. Then we cast it aside. Not because it failed, but because it worked too well. A plant that feeds people freely, expands on its own terms, and refuses to be controlled is a threat to systems built on profit. What grows without permission cannot be patented, and what cannot be patented cannot be told. This is the forgotten history of a perennial survivor, a crop that outlived kingdoms, endured 2 world wars, and still hides just beneath the soil, waiting for someone to remember it. Welcome to Roots of Survival. Before we open this vault of lost knowledge, take a second to subscribe. Every new subscriber protects the wisdom powerful systems hoped we would forget. The archive opens on the eastern shores of North America in the early 1600s. A French explorer, Samuel de Champlain, steps onto the coast of what would one day be Massachusetts. The Algonquin people greet him with a feast. Among the dishes is a strange knotted root they call Kaishi Shuk Panak, the sun root. Champlain tastes it, astonished. In his journal, he notes it rivals the prized artichokes of Europe. He packs his ship's hold with tubers and carries them back across the Atlantic. This was the sunchoke, Helianthus tuberosus, a perennial sunflower root native to the Great Lakes and eastern woodlands. Long before Champlain arrived, native tribes understood its power. The Iroquois told a legend. When Earthwoman died giving birth to twin sons, Sapling and Flint, the first sunchokes rose from her feet, a gift born from sacrifice. The plant rises far above a person's height, stretching 8 to 10 feet into the air, crowned with bright yellow blooms that tilt and track the sun throughout the day. Yet, its true value lies out of sight, hidden beneath the earth. Knotted tubers, in shades of white, gold, and purple, store their energy as inulin rather than starch, holding a sweetness untouched by the cold. From the Atlantic coast to the Great Plains, tribes planted it once and returned to the same patch for lifetimes. It spread quietly through underground rhizomes, forming a living lattice below the soil. A single stand could sustain an entire village for generations. In 1805, during their desperate crossing of the Dakotas, Lewis and Clark came close to starvation. It was Sacagawea who saved them. She uncovered the tiny food caches made by mice, piles of sunchokes gathered for winter, and dug them free. She roasted them over an open flame and fed the exhausted expedition. The tubers were versatile, crisp and refreshing when eaten raw, soft and earthy when boiled, or dried into flour that preserved well past winter. They survived freezing temperatures while still in the ground, waiting to be unearthed when hunger tightened its grip. The yields were astonishing. A single plant could give 3 to 6 pounds of food. An acre produced more nourishment than wheat, and even more than corn in colder regions. Centuries later, research confirmed what indigenous farmers already understood, yields reaching nearly 64,000 pounds per acre without needing irrigation. Potatoes, even under ideal and watered conditions, averaged around 53,000. This crop was not a luxury. It was survival, a foundation carved into the landscape. When Champlain brought sunchokes to France in the early 1600s, Europe was collapsing under famine. Fields were exhausted, and food shortages struck again and again. People distrusted the potato, believing strange myths about disease. But the sunchoke moved through Europe like a quiet miracle. The French named it topinambour, while Italians called it girasole, the sunflower. It fed peasants, animals, and even nobles. It needed no fertilizer, demanded little care. Plant in spring, harvest in fall, and whatever fragments remained would guarantee the next year's crop. University trials centuries later revealed the same truth. Sunchokes delivered nearly 30,000 calories per acre, while potatoes gave around 20,000. In cold regions, they rivaled corn, the very backbone of global agriculture. Yet weaknesses appeared. The tubers were small and oddly shaped, hard to scrub clean, and nearly impossible for early machines to harvest. They spoiled quickly, refusing to sit in warehouses the way potatoes could. Their inulin caused digestive discomfort for people not used to it. By the mid-17th century, the potato dominated. Uniform, smooth, predictable, and easy to store, it fit perfectly into the systems Europe was building: storage facilities, taxation structures, and centralized markets. The sunchoke slipped downward, becoming food for the poor, fodder for animals, a crop people turned to only when they had no other choice. In North America, colonists dismissed it as a weed. They favored European crops: wheat, barley, potatoes, plants that required purchasing seed each year, plants industries could regulate, tax, and profit from. Sunchokes endured along ditches and riverbanks, surviving but ignored. Then, war reshaped everything. World War I arrived. Germany suffered under a brutal Allied blockade. The winter of 1916 became infamous as the turnip winter. People ate feed crops meant for animals because potatoes had failed. Thousands starved. Sunchokes, growing wild in forgotten corners, saved lives. They could not be confiscated. They could not be blocked. They waited underground for desperate hands. World War II struck even harder. In 1940, occupying forces seized the majority of French food supplies. Potatoes went to soldiers. Families were left with scraps, sunchokes, rutabagas, vegetables once dismissed as pig feed. For nearly a decade, millions survived on them. The tubers were rough, difficult to wash, and the inulin caused painful gas, but they kept people alive when nothing else could. In the Netherlands, the winter of 1944 became the hunger winter. 22,000 people died, and still the sunchoke grew. The government released emergency recipe guides listing whatever could be eaten: wild greens, tulip bulbs, and sunchokes. Families clawed through frozen soil with numb fingers, desperate for anything that could keep them alive. When liberation finally came, survivors wanted nothing to do with the tuber that had carried them through starvation. An entire generation connected it with misery, occupation, and the darkest years they had endured. In France, grandparents who had lived through the Hunger Years refused to let it enter their kitchens. Never again. The vegetable that saved countless lives had become a symbol of suffering. It vanished from markets, from family recipes, even from collective memory. Yet, war could not change what the plant truly was. Nutritionally, it was a quiet powerhouse. 73 calories per 100 grams, 2 grams of protein, and 429 milligrams of potassium, more than a banana. Iron, copper, magnesium, and B vitamins filled every bite. But the true engine was inulin, making up more than half the tuber's weight, one of the richest inulin sources found in nature. Inulin is through the stomach untouched, reaching the colon intact. There, beneficial bacteria, especially bifidobacteria, feed on it, multiply, and release short-chain fatty acids. These compounds lower pH, suppress harmful microbes, and help the body absorb minerals like calcium and magnesium that would otherwise be lost. Research showed it eased constipation, strengthened the immune system, and may even stop certain cancers before they form. Potatoes spike blood sugar. Sunchokes don't. Their inulin breaks down slowly into fructose. In the 1980s, diabetics wrote letters saying their insulin needs dropped dramatically after eating sunchokes daily. Folk wisdom supported by science. And beyond nutrition, the plant healed landscapes. As a perennial, it needed no tilling and caused no erosion. Its deep roots broke hardened earth and tolerated drought, poor soils, and temperatures down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Where annual crops failed, sunchokes endured. They were shaped for disorder. In the 1960s, a California produce wholesaler named Frida Kaplan noticed the knobby tubers collecting dust. Their name, Jerusalem artichoke, was destroying any chance of public interest. It wasn't from Jerusalem and wasn't an artichoke. The Italian word girasole, sunflower, had simply morphed through mispronunciation. Kaplan rebranded it as sunchoke, trademarked the name in 1980, and packaged it with recipes. Sales exploded by 600%. Chefs rediscovered it. Nutty, sweet, crisp, raw, silky when cooked. San Francisco restaurants served sunchoke soups, purees, and roasted dishes, but something larger stirred beneath the surface. During the farm crisis of the 1980s, Midwest farms were collapsing. An idea emerged: grow sunchokes for food, livestock feed, fuel, and independence from corporate seed systems. High yields, perennial growth, ethanol from inulin. It seemed perfect. Economically, it failed. There was no market and no processing infrastructure. Farmers lost money, but the vision lived on. A crop for communities seeking self-reliance, not corporate chains. In France, long after the war, chefs revived taupe, nambour, no longer a reminder of suffering, now a symbol of heritage reclaimed. By the early 2000s, sunchokes were quietly returning to farmers' markets across North America and Europe. In the world of permaculture, they earned a legendary reputation, the holy grail of low-effort abundance. One planting, endless harvests. Today, scientists study them as a lifeline for struggling landscapes. In regions where climate change burns wheat and withers corn, the sunchoke endures, born in disorder, built for extremes, shaped by resilience rather than perfection. So why don't we see it everywhere? Modern agriculture requires conformity. Crops must ripen on schedule, endure mechanical harvesting, survive long shipping routes, stack neatly under fluorescent supermarket lights, and store for months without spoilage. Sunchokes reject all of those expectations. They mature at uneven times. Stored improperly, they spoil quickly. Potato harvesters snap and lose half the tubers because they cling so tightly to their roots. Efficient production requires specialized tools or hand labor, neither of which maximizes profit. And then there's the inulin issue. What makes them nutritionally superior can also upset unadapted stomachs. Most people need time for their gut bacteria to adjust, but modern diets don't allow for adjustment. They demand instant comfort, instant familiarity. A teasing nickname spread. Fart, artichoke, a joke that stuck. Even Julia Child once asked if anything could fix the gas problem. The answer was simple: cook them longer, let heat convert inulin to fructose, or eat small amounts until the body adapts. But patience is not something industrial food systems prioritize. So sunchokes remained niche, found in farmers markets, specialty plots, and backyard gardens where they grow like wildfire. That uncontrollable growth is their truth. You cannot eliminate sunchokes without poison. Break one piece and it sprouts again. In parts of Europe, they're labeled invasive when they escape cultivation. Invasive, a word society uses for things that thrive without permission, that don't rely on us, that remind us how fragile our sense of control really is. Sunchokes reveal what powerful systems would rather hide. Abundance does not need supervision. Perennials return on their own. They don't rely on seed purchases, chemical fertilizers, or corporate approval. They adapt, endure, and surpass expectations. But plants that survive without profit are labeled troublesome. The sunchoke out performs potatoes, restores broken soil, and feeds communities without intermediaries. It cannot be patented. It cannot be tamed into a predictable money stream. So it was dismissed as primitive, inconvenient, unworthy of large-scale farming. The pattern is familiar. Amaranth, once sacred, was banned by conquistadors. Certain heritage beans vanished when machines couldn't harvest them easily. Mesquite forests were cleared for cattle, destroying the very system that protected the land. Fava beans were replaced by expensive supplements that cost hundreds of dollars for what grows freely in a garden. Indigenous crops that offer independence are consistently erased, Not because they fail, but because they thrive without dependency. The sun choke endured by refusing to die. Yet most people alive today have never tasted one. They've never seen it grow tall. They've never learned that planting 3 tubers in autumn can return 30 by spring. That knowledge waits below the surface. Climate pressures continue to rise. Droughts, floods, heat waves. The crops feeding humanity were bred for stable conditions that no longer exist. The sun choke was shaped by instability. It stores energy where drought can't touch it. It survives cold that kills potatoes. It produces food with a fraction of the water corn requires. When industrial systems fracture, the sun choke will still be standing. It has been ready for centuries. French families survived occupation by eating topinam, boer, they despised. Dutch mothers dug frozen earth to find tubers for starving children. Native Americans called it kaishuk, panak, sunroot, a gift from Earthwoman's sacrifice. Names shift, memories fade, but the plant persists, perennial and patient, waiting for hands willing to dig. We didn't lose the sun choke, we abandoned it. But forgetting is never permanent. The knowledge is still in the soil, in every wild patch, in every gardener who plants a few and harvests dozens. This crop teaches through endurance, through its refusal to disappear. Abundance was always there, growing in the dirt, freely given. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Roots of Survival, hit the bell, like the video, and comment your thoughts. Every action helps preserve the knowledge they hoped would vanish. The next vault opens soon.